Hey everyone, welcome to another week of ProMAX Tech Talks. I'm here with our tech team again. We got Brian, Taylor, Mike, and Nathaniel on the line. This week we're going to be talking about the great debate between video editors, Mac or PC. Which one's better? Which one should you be using? So guys, to get started, what are some advantages and disadvantages of using a Mac or a PC for video editing? So let's start with the Mac side.
Mike, why don't you take it away? I mean,
you're probably the most.
I'm the only Mac person, really.
All of us.
Yeah,
that's not true. I used to do video editing on a Mac for many years, but it's been a while. But there's the current world's a little bit different than when I was doing it full time. So
to me, Mac OS 10 or OS X, it's a lot cleaner surface to work on, in my opinion. Having the ability to pretty much work on like anything in a smooth environment and just clean. I'm not much of a PC person, but I do see it as advantages here and there with, if you want to build something custom, you can put different graphics cards, different, expandable memory, all this and such. With the PC side, the Mac side is obviously going to be more expensive and you're pretty much locked down, but it's just that clean, very clean operating system that you're going after versus the hardware, I feel.
Mike, what about is that? I know that's true on the OS side. How is that on the actual, NLE side once you're in Resolve or Premiere or whatever?
There's certain little keystrokes I feel are a little bit better in the Mac side. Personally, if I can scroll back and forth through a timeline in the actual gesture of left and right versus an up and down scroll, it's a little bit easier in my opinion. With the PC side, I haven't figured out a way of doing that yet, but I'm sure there's ways of doing it. I'm sure you have to customize it, but I feel like it's more user-centric to be accustomed to the Mac side where it's just natural.
Now, what about from the PC side? Like, Mike, you were talking about there's some advantages like customization and stuff like that. You want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, you can build PC towers, even some laptops. You can pretty much interchange components here and there, GPUs, memory, pretty much expand your storage on there if you need to. Pretty much anything that you can build and buy, or you can build. Versus a Mac, you're pretty much locked down in what you have ordered in the first place, unless you buy that new crazy Mac Pro tower, but outside of that you can't really customize much anymore.
yeah, the decade old cliche that Mac is a canvas and Windows is a toolbox, right? Like, if you want to create things, the perception has always been you get a Mac and you create things. If you want a generalist tool that you don't necessarily know what you want, like a lot of businesses when they buy utilitarian machines, Windows is a pretty easy choice because they can bend it to their will quite easily. You can still do the same level of creation, but instead of starting at the canvas, you may have to build the easel and then pull out the paintbrush and all that other fun stuff on the Windows side, whereas it's all just kind of ready to go on the Mac side. So from a ease of use perspective, it's always been the perception has always been that the Mac is just something that a creative could sit down and just go to work. And there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, that's pretty much exactly what you just said, Mike. So, yeah, these days, though, I will say, I've split my time between Mac and PC. I was almost all Mac for a long time doing editing on Final Cut 7. I used Shake back in the day to do some compositing and stuff. But that was all OS X, and it worked. It was great. There were some programs that only worked in the Mac environment for a long time that were high-end programs you couldn't do anywhere else. These days, I think that has narrowed significantly. I think the interface between Adobe, you look at Adobe on Mac and PC, and now that ProRes has kind of come up to par on the PC, there's very little functional difference between the two, minus a handful of, to Mike's point, a handful of keystroke and hotkey and kind of just macro level things that frankly are probably possible on both if you put enough time into it to figure out exactly what they are and what you want to do. So it's a very it's a very thin line now between, like, from a production environment between the two. And we're seeing that. I mean, we see that with our clients now. What, Nathaniel, we used to be 95% Mac client based.
Well, I mean, there's now legitimately a choice, right? Like, you know, you go back 5 years, excuse me, you go back 5 years, there was not a choice. You were doing Mac.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that I've seen, just, you know, using Premiere on Macs, using Premieres on PCs, I tend to get the feeling that the Mac side is a little bit more efficient with how it's utilizing the processing and RAM and everything that's available. Honestly, I think that's actually probably more Adobe QC than anything else, because I think most of our market, you know, if you're a professional video editor, I mean, you know, it's down from 95%, but it's still 85% Mac based.
Sure.
And I think that's where more QC, more development happens. So I have found that, you know, at least Premiere Resolve tends to be a little bit cleaner, a little bit tighter on the Mac side, just from clicking buttons.
So you hit on the one true difference between the two platforms. Like, there's a few, but this to me is the most significant. The Mac, Apple, and their PCs, their desktops, you know, their laptops, the benefit that they have is that they have an extremely tightly controlled hardware selection and hardware pipeline. Everything that they put out is basically accounted for and expected, and there's no deviance from, you know, every MacBook is the same, you know, through the generations. You know, there's obviously changes in different models and everything, but you know, every MacBook, every Mac Pro Tower, the new ones that are coming out, they're going to be the same. Now, there are a few differences in the Mac Pro Towers now, and that you can do PCI again, but you know, in general, to your point that everything feels a little bit more optimized, you know, when you only have to optimize for one specific hardware set, or in this case, a handful, you know, iMac, MacBook, and Tower, man, you can squeeze just a lot more out of it. I mean, you look at, like, video game consoles are like 1/10 the power of a high-end gaming PC, but they rock because they know exactly how to use them and exactly how to build the games for them.
Yeah, on the Mac side, there are dozens of variables. On the PC side, there are thousands of variables.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can build a PC with just about anything, and to that end, it goes to show, you know, some of the most popular production PCs are like the HP Z series and the Dell series that are locked down like that in the same method, in the same way. Now, obviously, there's still a lot more variance there potentially, but that is one of the primary differences. Like, it's a hugely known quantity with a Mac product or an Apple product.
It's interesting. That actually makes me think back to when we were building ProMAX ones, which were like legitimately like super PCs. Like, they were just nuts. And if you think about it, in a lot of ways, NLEs are made around Mac for video editing, whereas video editing PCs are made around NLEs. They're made around the software.
Yeah,
that's a weird. I'm saying that really poorly. Let me try one more time to say that better. But it's interesting because you know, Adobe or sorry, the lighting. It's interesting because Adobe or, you know, Blackmagic or Avid, they'll make their software around the Mac hardware. Whereas that same software on the PC side, if you want a really good video editing workstation, you have to build that editing workstation around the software you're using.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, from my own personal experience, I've kind of had an interesting love-hate relationship with both Mac and PC. Because when I was in school, I was strictly doing video editing. So our whole suite was Mac. I wouldn't touch a PC. I would, like, get that thing away from me. Then I graduated and started just doing my own stuff, and I just love the versatility of my PC. So now it's all I use. Even a couple weeks ago, my PC crashed, and while it was gone, I switched out and was using a Mac and had to edit some videos, and I just felt lost. I was like, I hate this. So it's definitely changed. It's definitely a lot more user friendly now to use a PC compared to a Mac. Like obviously the Mac, when I was using the Mac back in the day, the performance I got out of it compared to a PC is why I was like, I shunned PC. But now I'd rather edit on my Surface than on a MacBook, just because I can throw that thing in my backpack, carry it around, and just kind of beat it up and have fun with it. And I'm not always using it for video editing.
Well, and I think you're hitting on the absolute truth, which is it's way more important what you're comfortable with. You know, what the muscle memories of the quick keys are, and what you just like. Because like for day-to-day work, I use a PC because it's a touch screen, and the touch screen pops off. You know, it's the Microsoft Surface Book. I love that thing. Like, I absolutely love it. At home, I've got a Mac. I do more creative work at home, video editing, audio stuff. But yeah, it's really just all about what you're comfortable with.
Yeah. Sorry, lost my train of thought.
So we've been talking about performance and all that kind of stuff, where Mac's very focused on, they have their setup. PC's got some variants. So what kind of performance difference is there actually between the two systems? Like, is it something super noticeable, or is it gotten to a point where it's, while Mac is very fine-tuned for the creative, overall the systems are gonna put out the same type of performance? Like, what's the difference between the two?
So it's interesting. Generally, you can get a very high performance laptop in a Mac. You can get a very high performance desktop in a Mac. But where the balance shifts is over time. If you need to drop in a new video card or do anything with upgrades and stuff, you're pretty much, at least right now, especially with the trash can type Mac Pros, you get what you bought. And they haven't been updated in several years. Now, obviously, we're getting the new Mac Pro Towers here with PCI again, but they do have some fun, unique video card. They have a weird video card housing, and no one's sure if it's going to be like awesome or a problem yet. But so that remains to be seen. But being able to upgrade a PC over time, a 2-year-old PC is generally faster than a 2-year-old Mac. Especially for the cost. If you build out a PC for the cost of a Mac, it will be faster, like hands down guaranteed. Like, there's very little that you're going to be able to do. If you're paying $10,000 for a Mac Pro Tower, we could probably, I'm sure Taylor's brain is flying right now, but you could probably build 3 or 4 PCs, for that cost that all surpass that Mac Pro. That's probably generous, but a couple of them for sure. So
close.
Yeah. So it's
at minimum you could build 2 that would beat it.
Yeah.
Well, so why is that? Why is that? Like, obviously Apple, they have that big brand, like, with them that comes with it. But why is there such a price disparity that you could feasibly build 2 to 3 PCs that outperform a single Mac Tower? Like, what? Like, is there any specific reason behind that, or is it just because of the brand name that comes with it?
I'll qualify it with one thing. If you're comfortable, if you have the skills to build a PC, that's feasible. If you're going to buy like an HP Z series type system that's comparable to a Mac, it will still be cheaper, but it will not be half as cheap. So, this goes back to our conversation, on one of the last podcasts where, buy versus build, like if you have the skills, but you run against the same problems though. You build your own system, you're your own support team in most cases, there's issues there. And where Apple has really made its mark for the longest time is QC and quality. The design that you get, if using your MacBook makes you happy, and if picking up your iPhone makes you happy, there's actual value in that. Like, if you enjoy what you like, you guys, I have my little Surface here too. I use it every single day. It's awesome. I love it. It's a like super high quality little machine. And it's the same kind of thing. Like, I could build that in a desktop or even a cheap laptop for probably half the cost, but I wouldn't, it wouldn't fulfill the need that it does right now for various reasons. So, I mean, they have a hugely powerful reputation for quality in build, and that's really what you're paying for, and a little prestige. When you flip out your MacBook at the coffee shop, everybody's like, "Damn, that guy dropped like $2,500 for his laptop. He must be doing something right." Little do they know.
Yeah. One thing that I don't think we've touched on, and I don't know, Matt, if your questions are getting us there, but I think this is a real difference between Mac and PC in the professional video world, is on the rendering side. And when you get into heavy VFX work, that's where I see a lot more people go towards PCs, because you can get into, big heavy lifting GPUs. And if you're rendering out massive files over long periods of time, that kind of VFX work really is just, you need the power that you can build out with a PC. Whereas, day-to-day editing, like, cutting together 4K ProRes, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But if you're doing massive, 4 or 5 day long renders, you're going to be set up on a PC render farm with a bunch of GPU.
Yeah, I mean, Randy, one of our clients, he was working on an iMac Pro for a while, and he does strictly graphics work and like rendering in 3D and, Photoshop, Illustrator, etc. And his iMac Pro, he basically was like, I'm done with this. He got a PC built for him by his company. It has like it has 3 SLI GPUs at this point, and it renders at about 4 times the speed of his iMac Pro did. So just the sheer time saving that he gets out of that was worth swapping over. And he had to completely learn Windows from scratch at that point.
Oh, wow. So to go back to our cost conversation, do you have any idea like what the comparison between the cost of his iMac was compared to the system that they built out?
The iMac Pro they got him was about $5,700, I think. The PC they had built, and it was built by a company for them. It wasn't hand built by him, so it still was, a bit more expensive. It was somewhere in the range of about $4,500. So
we're still saving.
Is that with the GPUs?
Is that with a monitor? Because that is one thing that the iMacs, I will say, and this cuts both ways. Like when you pay for an iMac, you're paying for a 5K monitor
5K
now.
Monitor.
I think it's more than that. But yeah, you're paying for a 5K monitor, but not everybody needs a 5K monitor either. So
the other benefit is they're at a company where they have a bunch of monitors laying around already, so the monitor wasn't a problem for them.
Well, and that's a really good point, though. If you're a company and you've got a bunch of monitors laying around that work, and you're buying iMacs, you still have a bunch of monitors laying around that aren't doing anything. Whereas if you're buying PCs, you're leveraging, and I imagine those monitors lying around are not cheap monitors.
Oh no, they're what are they? What is that? They're like planar, like 4K UHD, like HDR, the whole 9 yards. They're great.
Just have them send some our way.
Yeah, we can.
We'll take those.
BenQ ones.
I would love to have them. No, the other thing is, I mean, even if you take that cost, that $4,500, and you're putting it up against an iMac that's $5,700, and then you get a monitor for, $1,500, and round it out to $6,000 for that computer.
It's still 4 times.
Going 4 times faster when you're rendering is worth $300 extra in comparison. Like the performance output is such a big leap when you're dealing with like After Effects and what is the other one you use? Like 3D Mark something. I don't know.
Does that include the $1,000 Apple monitor stand?
No.
You had to bring it up. You couldn't help yourself.
We can't have a conversation about PC versus Mac without bringing up the monitor stand.
Monitor stand is
we're going to come out with the ProMAX $1,200 PC monitor stand.
That's right.
And I want it to literally just be a piece of plastic.
It'll be
that like holds the monitor by like a paper clip or something.
It'll be that with a GPU hot glue guns to it.
There you go.
Perfect. Love it.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're all circling around a real difference here between Macs and PCs, and it's on the rendering side. And yeah, I think you're totally right, Taylor. Like that's where I've seen more clients say we actually need PCs here for VFX rendering, whereas actual editorial, really whatever your preferences works.
Yeah, new Mac Pro notwithstanding, it is a very stark difference in price, price to performance type ratios between PC and Mac right now. As the new Mac Tower comes out, that may shift. I mean, it will be a kick-ass product. Like, I have very little doubt. Like, you will be able to trick that thing out to be a beast, and it will probably be solidly in the low mid 5 digits to do it. But it's gonna rock. And if that's your jam, then game on.
Yep.
But yeah, no, to the point earlier, there's a lot of good options these days, and really, back to the tools at hand conversation, between Resolve and Adobe and even Avid, I mean, they're so platform agnostic that if you're comfortable in Windows, you're probably going to save more time using a Windows-based system with those programs than switching to a Mac with the assumption that you're going to become more efficient. And vice versa. If you're comfortable with a Mac, run Adobe in the Mac and rock and roll. Like, you don't, unless you have a desperate need for GPU rendering power or something, in which case it's a pretty good argument for a PC. That's really one of the strongest arguments for a PC. Yeah.
Okay. So when someone's buying a Mac or a PC, are there, like, obviously Final Cut is specifically made for Mac. Are there any other softwares or hardwares out there that a video editor would need that kind of falls to either they're strictly PC or strictly Mac that they should be aware of?
Very little these days. I mean, virtually everything is, almost everything except for some very specific, special use pieces of software are cross-platform.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything commonly used in basic video production that's not cross-platform, aside from Final Cut Pro 10.
Yeah, I think there's still some Autodesk products that, like you get into like the Smoke and Flame and all that are still, and even those, I think they're cross-platform now, although I think a couple of high-end ones are not. But yeah, that's really the only thing I can think of. I know Smoke was that way for the longest time.
Okay. So as we've been talking, like, it's pretty clear that several of us, like Mike, it seems like you use strictly Mac products. Nathaniel, Brian, and I, it seems like we kind of use a mix of both. So for a business, if they were to mix the two in their environment, are there going to be any performance hits that they come across? Is there anything they should be looking out for? What's the impact of mixing the two?
I mean, we have a lot of environments that we service that are mixed. Most of them are mixed, frankly. That said, the biggest difference, the single biggest difference, like in a shared storage type environment, when you're using the two together, is path mapping. So the way that the Macs map the paths to files is a little bit different than PCs. PCs in general are going to do, or Windows in general are going to, do drive letters and such, whereas the Macs are going to do just pathing, just regular old pathing, UNC paths. But as long as the communication and understanding around that is strong for a company, there's very little difference in using the two together. There are if you've got Macs on your network, they're going to put dot files and underscore files all over the place for you on the PCs, but that's easily dealt with. Things like that, but it's pretty minor, all things considered. Like, they work quite well together these days, now that Apple has embraced SMB.
So Taylor,
I got a bit of work to do there.
So Taylor, when you're building out systems for people, do you have to change anything based on if they have Macs or PCs, or is it pretty much across the board, just the same build?
See, servers are the one unifying factor in all of this. The servers don't change. They're the same. We don't have to modify the server depending on the workstation, other than if you want a faster connection or not. the biggest difference when you're working in shared storage with a Mac versus a PC is just it's about how they view the file system on the server. So Macs have a tendency with Finder and all these different views that they have and all the previews and the thumbnail generation and the, like opening a file to, like, if you open a PSD or you're looking at a PSD in Finder, it will have a little preview in that window. And with networking, specifically SMB, that locks it. So Finder locks the file, and then you try to save your file, and Finder is locking you out of saving your own file in Photoshop, and it gets to be a little bit of a mess. Windows just natively handles that a bit better. But if you have a team that understands those differences, knows how to mess around with Finder so that doesn't happen, you can work with Finder and with Explorer and with Mac and Windows on the server, no problem. And I deal with those clients every day, and it's not much of a big deal if you have a mixed environment.
You reminded me of one other thing that's pretty important and has shaped a lot of our technology choices for several years, and that is some newer higher end components often don't have Mac drivers, or they don't have good Mac drivers. And what that really translates into is, sometimes we're a little pigeonholed in choices for like network cards and things like that, like high performance network cards that are supported on the Mac. Whereas on the PCs, like generally everybody builds the Windows driver and the Linux driver and everything rocks. I mean, for example, some of our higher end networking cards, we can see nearly 900 to a gigabyte a second on that throughput, or on the same card, and just the same exact setup, with the only difference being you drop that card into a Mac and use the Mac driver, that might be a 600 to 700 megabyte a second connection. Literally the same physical card, you can drop it into a different system and it will just be faster because that side of it is a little bit more effective. That changes, that waxes and wanes significantly between
There's
products.
definitely something to that, because Macs are built and their drivers are coded by hardware developers for a consumer basis. They aren't really for business or enterprise or high-end performance network storage, etc. So when it comes to like the bleeding edge of 100 gigabit and 40 gigabit and 50 gigabit, 25 gig, like all these higher end, these are strictly fiber, strictly, data center type stuff. For the most part, there's very few companies that put in the effort to go through all of Apple's hoops to get a driver on their, OS.
And weirdly enough, just a little random fact, a lot of the high-end networking cards are actually driven by the financial markets to do literally stock trading and stuff. So speed and latency is just insanely important to them, and that's all done on Linux and Windows servers. So a lot of those systems kind of start there, and the Mac is a bit of an afterthought. When you're at that level of networking. That said, the networking speeds these days are so dang fast that the overhead gives you enough to do almost anything you want in most cases. But it is a consideration.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I actually, when it comes to high performance NICs, 10 gig, 2500, etc., it's like the opposite problem as NLEs. Like any company that makes a video editing application is doing 80%, 90% of their testing on Mac, right? Anybody that's making high-end 10 gig, 100 gig NICs is doing 80, 90% of their testing on PCs. So ironically, you kind of need those two things together. But it's important to kind of understand the basis of how those companies are developing, what they test on, etc.
And along those same lines, I'll start the conversation. I'll let Taylor finish it. I want to use this opportunity to put a PSA out around the 10 gig NICs that are embedded in iMacs and the current generation of Apple machines, because for lack of a better way to phrase it, they are dubious at best in their consistent performance. And it's been proved out over and over in the interactions that we've had with our clients. You wanna elaborate on that, Taylor?
So I kind of giggled when Apple announced that they were putting a 10 gig adapter in their iMac Pro, and I was like, what adapter? After a while, we dug up the chipset, and it's basically the same chipset you can buy in most $100 10 gig NICs. So they pretty much put the single cheapest 10 gig adapter inside that iMac Pro, and it is not good. Over the course of probably 8 months of working on these things in dozens and dozens of different offices, different environments, different months of like production for that iMac Pro, so definitely different build dates, etc. There's some that perform fantastically and some that perform at like 200 megabytes per second. And no matter how much tuning or effort I put into it, I could not get them to perform any better than that. And it's just completely inconsistent, frustrating, and felt like a waste of so much of my time. So.
And to be fair, it seems to be the chipset that we're looking at here, because there are third-party products that use the same chipset that exhibit the same behavior.
Absolutely.
So
the PCI cards, the direct attach Thunderbolt 3 10 gig adapters, they all do the exact same thing, and it's all with these chipsets. These, I'm not going to call it the companies, the chipset names. That'd be a little mean. But it's across the board. It's not just Mac.
It's an important thing to point out that, in this scenario, not all 10 gig NICs are made equal. Just because you have a 10 gig NIC doesn't mean it's going to perform as well as every other 10 gig NIC in the world. And the ones that are in iMac Pros are on the more finicky, lower end performing side than, a high-end 10 gig NIC.
And look, that's not exclusive to the Apple side. There, you can buy a $100 NIC on the Windows side and get the same crappy performance. It's just unfortunately, the one that they included in the built-in systems have that.
I mean, if you're not on actual 10 gig, if you're on like a 200 megabyte per second internet connection, that NIC is going to rock because it'll do that. And most internet connections aren't going to get that fast. And since you only have the one port, it's probably going to be for internet. So there is an argument that it's like, hey, they didn't need to include a super high-end one because they weren't targeting, high performance direct attached network storage type of a deal. So,
well, I think it was.
I'm not going to knock it.
I'll call Apple out on this. I think they were checking a box that customers were asking for, rather than saying, how do we make this a really great 10 gig networking shop?
Yeah.
Which is,
yeah. And to be fair too, look, with those NICs that are in those systems, you can reasonably expect somewhere between 200 and 400 megabytes a second in most cases, which is still a lot of data.
Yeah. Still a lot of data, and it's still a lot better than a 1 gig connection.
Yes.
And you pair that up with a $800 10 gig Netgear switch, and the fact that 10 gig storage systems now are incredibly affordable. It's, it might not be full 10 gig, but it's still a hell of a lot better than a 1 gig option.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there's value in them. I think the thing that's the most frustrating for us is just the lack of consistency across the ones that we've seen. They just vary so hard.
If they stated that it was a 5 gig adapter and just said it was 5 gig and it always performed at 5 gig, I'd be happy. But they say it's 10 gig and it doesn't do 10 gig.
Line speed 10 gig is a little hard to find. All right. So yeah, we'll close that tangent. Sorry about that.
Sounds good. All right, guys. So that's everything I had. Is there anything else that I got left off about Mac and PC that we should talk about? It seems like you guys kind of had a treasure chest of stuff to talk about there.
I'll throw in because I thought it was hokey when I first saw it, but and this isn't really video editing specific, but for day-to-day business work, for data work, I have actually found a laptop. My main workstation is a touchscreen laptop, and I have found the touchscreen laptop, that format, to be incredibly useful. I don't think I would, for any reason, choose to go away from PC at this point. Not for video editing, but for like my day-to-day work, because the touchscreen has just proven to be too valuable of a tool for me.
Yeah, that's a really interesting statement, if only because like the one thing that Mac has yet to really truly adopt is touchscreens. I mean, they have the iPads and everything, and frankly, they're the leader of touchscreen, touch and feel kind of technology. But I have the Mac Pro that I use for our testing, and about 3 times a day I touch the screen thinking that it's going to do something.
I do the same on my MacBook Pro at home all the time, and every time I'm like, God damn it!
Yeah. No, I have 2 touch screens in front of me, so like going to that, and then the Surface, so everything is just touch.
It's incredibly useful. It's a lot more tactically useful than I thought it would be. When I first saw it, I thought it was kind of hokey, and why would you use that?
Yes.
But it's a real tool.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But if they put a touchscreen on the MacBook, why would you buy the iPad Pro? You have to differentiate all of it. It's stupid.
Yeah, there's a market.
They should put a touchscreen on it, and everybody thinks they should.
Mike would buy both of them.
Yeah, he would.
I'd probably switch back to a MacBook Pro as my main laptop if they put a touchscreen on it.
No, look, like I said, there's literally nothing there's no touchscreens that feel as good as an iPad, or there really just isn't. And that's a comment to their software as well, because a lot of the reaction and responsiveness in that is key. But yeah.
All right. So to wrap,
there's one other thing that I would say about. Sorry.
It's all good.
There's just more to go.
Wrapping up. We are not wrapping this up yet.
There's one more thing that I would probably say about in a work environment where you have PCs and Macs, or you have any sort of like shared network and you're trying to get things done. In a work group, when you are just setting up workstations, one of the other benefits of Macs, I will say, is that you plug them in, you power them on, you spend about 5 minutes just setting up a user, and you connect them up, and they're done. Like, they run, they work, they are an out-of-the-box, completely built solution, and they need very little effort to just get them up and running, and then stay up and running without issue. The PC sides definitely need a little more effort and a little more attention as they're being put together and connected and configured just right for a work environment.
Here's the test.
Mm-hmm.
Give your mom a PC and give your mom a Mac, and just figure out when you're going to get the first phone call.
I can tell you, with the client that I work MSP for, they have 4 or 5 Windows edit bays. Basically, they have 1 graphics, 4 edit bays, and then they have 8 Mac workstations that are also edit bays. I have gotten probably 40 plus calls on something PC related that they need to work on. Adobe updated, now I need to update my driver for my graphics card, now I need to do Windows updates. I've gotten 2 calls for the Mac workstations.
Hey Taylor, by the way, my PC updated. I need to update the driver. I'm serious.
Well, and it's a really good wrap up to this whole thing. Is it really, everything we've said, like where the benefit of the Mac really truly lies is in the user experience, right? Like pretty much start to finish. Like they're nicer. Like it's something that somebody wants to own. Like you look at like an old HP laptop and people are like, yeah, whatever. But people genuinely enjoy MacBooks. and just like, yeah, user experience overall, like they're easier. They really are. And depends on your company, depends on your needs, depends on, you know, who your employees are and who you are as to whether that's more beneficial or less than, you know, having the full toolbox of a Windows-based system, you know. So
It's also the ecosystem and continuity, what you have and what you use.
yeah.
All right. So to wrap this up, there's one last thing I'm going to ask from you guys. So a couple of weeks ago, I sent out an email with a blog about this particular topic, and there was one response that someone sent me right away, and it was, I still think about it to this day. They sent me an email back that said, "Never send me this garbage again. Mac is the best. Don't send me another email." So yeah, I removed them from our email list. So let's take it to a vote. What's better for video editing, Mac or PC?
I think I say this every single time. It depends on your workflow. If I'm doing Maya and I'm doing simulations, I'm on a PC. If I'm doing, you know, regular video editing, and I'm probably on a Mac.
I'm gonna say for the constraint of your question, which is what's better for video editing, I'm gonna go Mac.
Mine's obvious.
I know your answer.
Yeah.
What is yours?
For Mac.
Taylor?
Oh, I'm PC all the way.
Okay.
There's no argument for me.
All right.
I was voting a little bit of me was hoping you were going to drop Linux.
Oh God, no. You want to know what I actually do is I run on Server 2019. I don't run on Windows.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, I don't run on Windows 10.
Yeah.
I'm still using an old Sun Microsystem setup over here.
There you go. Yeah.
Is that not okay?
It's a good time.
Yes, sir.
Little
I mean,
SGI, one of those SGI machines from back in the day.
All right.
All right, we should probably end this, or we're just going to keep stringing this on.
Oh yeah. So yeah, thanks everyone for joining us for this week's Tech Talk. If you're not following our social media channels, follow those below. I'm also going to put a link to the blog that I referenced right below this, so check that out. And if you're not subscribed to our channel, click that subscribe button and you'll get updates whenever we send out another one of these. So thanks everyone. Have a great week.
Care.
Okay, let me stop that recording.